Next is Max Conrad. Okay. Inessa Bazavez.
Good morning. Can you guys hear me? I was here 2 months ago in Alexandria. It's good to be here back. Good to see everyone. My name is Inessa Bazaev. I'm a professor of music theory at the College of Music and Dramatic Arts here at LSU. Yesterday, my colleague at the Law Center, Edward Richards, sent a memo to the board. He couldn't be here to read it. It's quite a lengthy memo. And I have extra copies. If anyone's interested, I'll leave it out here. But for the sake of the public record, I'd like to highlight a few passages in this memo. Edward Richards is professor of law at the LSU Law Center, and the title of the memo is The Legality of an LSU COVID Vaccination Mandate. Professor Richards was involved in public health law and policy for more than 40 years. He has worked with CDC, the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security, and the American Public Health Association, among many other associations and state and local health departments. In his memo, he writes, quote, I want to address 3 specific questions about an LSU vaccination mandate. Is it prohibited by the US Constitution? Is it prohibited by federal law? And is it prohibited by Louisiana law? The answer to all of these 3 questions is no. He goes into a lengthy argument in his memo. I'll spare you the time. I'm going to jump to conclusions. There are no legal bars to LSU or other Louisiana public universities asking the Louisiana Department of Health to permit them to impose universal vaccine mandates on students at the university. As a matter of public policy, it is a tragedy that these mandates were not imposed last spring when the vaccines were first available to the general adult population. Early imposition of a vaccine mandate in public and private universities would have reduced the community spread of COVID in university communities such as Baton Rouge, Lafayette, Shreveport, and others. It would have reduced the spread of the Delta variant and would have made the reopening of the universities in the fall of 2020 to in-person classes less dangerous. The board should adopt a vaccination mandate that is effective immediately. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Max Conrad is here with us.
I and some of my colleagues in the College of Art and Design are being asked to teach courses with enrollments of 350 to 950 students in one classroom. Even with 50% capacity, I fear that these have the potential of being super spreader events because of the very low vaccination rates of LSU students. I would call for the option of 100% online teaching as being a better choice for huge classes such as this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next is Robbie Rowe.
Chairman, President Tate, and members of the Board of Supervisors, thank you for allowing me to make this comment. My name is Robbie Rowe. I am a professor of physics and astronomy at LSU, where I have taught and done research for 47 years. I sent in a written comment, but I decided to put it aside because the solemnity and seriousness of what we face doesn't seem to have sunk in. My colleague just showed today's front page of The Advocate, but I was struck that on last night's public television news hour, there was a long segment where the Baton Rouge General Hospital Chief of Emergency Care spoke with anguish about 80% of ICU filled with COVID patients. And then an Our Lady of the Lake nurse also spoke. And I have a feeling that this solemnity of what we face has not really sunk in. Because this board, in your June 18th meeting in Alexandria, voted 9-2 to require vaccinations once the Louisiana Department of Health adds it to their list. Now, Louisiana's statute, of course, it is not on the current list of the vaccines, but Louisiana statute says that one seeks the authority, and this is what some of the universities did. They are being dismissed as private, but clearly LSU did not. So it was empty words in your resolution if you did not even seek that authority. For months, the faculty, hundreds of faculty in faculty forums, have been told one excuse after the other. Now, you have just heard, and you should read the statement by Professor Edwards. LSU has a law school. He is a distinguished professor of public health law for over 30, 40 years. And every one of the arguments that is thrown out has been shown to be not in the law of Louisiana. Yesterday morning, on a local radio show, Chairman Dampf took the next step. Since Indiana University was mentioned, his statement was that Indiana is different from Louisiana. Of course it is. We know that. But Louisiana law, and this is why the statement of Professor Edwards of LSU Law School, does the board ever consult its own faculty, including the law faculty? And it has been following the advice, however limited it may be, of one legal counsel or outside law firms, and we know from the whole Title IX scandal of recent years that this has not particularly served LSU well. Now, we did hear the paeans to LSU athletics a few minutes ago. I completely share in my admiration for LSU athletics. And of course, with Mr. Temple right here, and we are speaking, after all, in the Tiger Stadium, hallowed ground, the mecca of athletics. But LSU is also a research one university, which means science, reason. We are even inheritors of the Enlightenment. Should we not keep all this in front and always narrow it down to some little legal argument which is indeed incorrect and is thrown up one after the other, and they're being changed all the time? Now, above all, parents send children to us, and we owe them to keep them safe. We educate them, but you cannot educate in the intensive care unit, leave alone in the ground. You are supervisors, and the students, the staff and faculty that you supervise, you owe a debt for their safety and those considerations, as well as I said, the considerations of what a university should be in all its aspects. Athletics certainly, but also as inheritors, as I said, of centuries of reason, science, and so on. And not be so deterred by the passions of today and ignorant attorneys general who are called repeatedly. This morning's advocate also has a story of how he had to withdraw from the case that he tried to bring against a private college in Monroe. Fears of this are not what a university should be just giving into. The Board of Supervisors has a responsibility to the citizens of this country. We are an A&M college. I remind you that during the Civil War, President Lincoln and Morrill enacted the Morrill Act, which set up these agricultural and medical colleges in every state for the benefit of the citizens through the education and research of its citizens. This is the legacy we also have. Pay heed to them. As I said, I've taught here for 47 years. I've never once addressed the board. This is my first meeting. I thank you for the courtesy that you have given me, but I would like to call your attention to your responsibilities. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Lastly, we have Marge Bro.
Folks, I've been somewhat lenient about the time restrictions, and the best you can do to keep it to 3 minutes would really be appreciated.
Is this on? Can you hear me? Okay. Hello, my name is Marge Bro, and I teach French dans le département de français, ici à LSU. I applaud and appreciate the Board of Supervisors for holding their meeting today at 50% capacity. This is wise and prudent. As for me, I must teach in a small classroom of 24 desks in the basement of Allen Hall. I invite you to come with me. From here, we'd walk to Allen Hall and enter the west door and go down a flight of stairs into the basement where the ceiling is low and the hallway is packed with students during class change. Then we will turn right into a small hallway where we will find, again on the right, the door to room 38. Inside this small room, there are no windows, but 24 seats, and that is where I must teach my 19 mostly unvaccinated students for 1 hour, 3 hours in a row, 11:30, 12:30, and 1:30. I will teach them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for the next 15 weeks. This will be a Petri dish for the Delta variant, because also my students have only one doorway in and out as they bump into each other as they go into that small hallway that leads to the larger hallway. This worries me because on Saturday mornings I am charged with the care of a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old who are unvaccinated and lovely children, I must add. I would want nothing to happen to them. So I love my job, I love my students, and I would like the option of mitigating my risk by either teaching at 50% capacity, as this meeting is doing, though the registrar informed me that due to high student enrollment, which is a good thing, this will not be possible because there are no classrooms available. Or I'd like to have the option of teaching online, though my preference would be to teach in person. I must follow the safety guidelines as mentioned in LSU's roadmap to the fall, which says, the health and safety of our community will always be our guidepost. Thank you for your time. I wish you continued health. Merci beaucoup de m'avoir reçu.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Those are all the individuals registered for public comment.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
I'm going to recognize Dr. Tate for a comment.
I appreciate the comments from my colleagues on the faculty. Just one update. We sent a letter to the Commissioner of Health as well as the Higher Education Commission. We've been in contact with them on a consistent basis for since I've been hired, actually, because I actually believe we should be vaccinated. I won't rehash all the politics related to vaccination here. They're well established. But we did ask that, because we know that the emergency status for the vaccine is going to be lifted very soon, and that they would put it on the approval list, which would then ultimately end up with a mandate for vaccination at LSU, broadly defined. And we would then implement that mandate as part of our protocols. So it is the intent to do that. The time horizon for that is misaligned in clear ways. However, we're not going to hesitate to do that.
Thank you, sir, very much. Okay. At this time, unless there's objection, I move that we recess for committee meetings. Hearing no objection, the board is in recess. Ms. Jones, will you please call the academic committee to order?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Griffith, please call roll.
Ms. Jones?
Here.
Ms. Aguilera?
Here.
Mr. Armenter?
Here.
Ms. Aronson?
Here.
Mr. Blossman?
Here.
Mr. Starnes?
Here.
Ms. Werner?
Here.
Mr. Williams? Here. Madam Chair, there's a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Griffith. This semester, LSU of Alexandria is launching CORE, its Center for Opportunity Research and Experimental Learning. The mission of CORE is to provide services and programming that support students as they pursue activities of research, scholarship, inquiry, and creativity. Examples include an undergraduate research journal, the Oak Leaf, a campus scholar day, and various experimental learning options, including professional development and student engagement. These services and programs promote holistic student development across all disciplines by incorporating inclusive mentorship and engaging instruction. Over at LSU Health Sciences Center Shreveport, Dr. Wayne Orr, Director of the Center for Cardiovascular Disease and Sciences, and Dr. Karen Stokes, Professor of Molecular and Cellular Physiology, Assistant Director of CCDS in Scientific Excellence, was awarded an NIH-funded 1032 grant to establish the multidisciplinary training in cardiovascular pathophysiology training program. The MTCP training program is only the 6th current NIH-funded T32 training program in Louisiana, and the only one in the state focused on cardiovascular disease research. At the flagship campus, LSU and Louisiana Tech University are proud to announce the establishment of the Center for Innovations in Structural Integrity Assurance, or CISIA, the first industry university cooperative research center for either institution. CISIA will serve as a trusted source for transformative insights, predictive capabilities and materials, innovations across broad industrial sectors, focusing on structural integrity, assurance for small and large structures, and mechanical components. Failure of infrastructure and components can have economic, social, and environmental consequences. In fact, the failure of aging civil infrastructure is projected to result in $4 trillion in losses to the United States GDP and 2.5 million jobs lost over the next 10 years. No currently active IUCRC matches the CISIA's research and development capabilities, hence the importance of its establishment. At this time, I call on Dr. Tate to present the first item. President Tate.
We're talking about COVID. The first item is a report on the return to class and the COVID mitigation. Provost Lee will provide that.
Okay, sure. Good morning, everybody. I'm Matt Lee. I'm the Interim Executive Vice President and Provost. The COVID mitigation strategies have been laid out and delineated to the campus community. The first strategy is, of course, strong encouragement for students to get vaccinated and provide readily available vaccination opportunities on campus. We have a continuing campaign going for our students, faculty, and staff, and are working on a daily basis to make sure that we strongly encourage that. In addition, we have a campus-wide mandate for masking in indoors, and then also are asking folks to mask when they are within 50 feet of coming into the entrance of a building. Beyond that, we have worked with our environmental scientists and engineers to evaluate the ventilation in classrooms, and they have been working with facility services to establish enhanced ventilation through the HVAC systems, and also bringing in HEPA filtration systems for the teaching spaces on campus. Beyond this, we will continue to implement our sophisticated wastewater monitoring system that we have established over the course of the last year with our environmental engineers, where they monitor the wastewater coming out of our congregate living spaces and other buildings, and then they are able to, when they see a spike in the wastewater, in the genome units per liter with COVID indications, they're able to go over there and institute testing within the congregate living quarters, and then either quarantine or isolate anyone who they discern to be positive. We also are requiring, upon entry to the university for students, evidence of either being vaccinated or of having a recent negative COVID test over the last 5 days before coming, or I think a recent indication within the last 90 days of having tested positive and then apparently having some immunity to it. For those unvaccinated, we will institute a regular testing regimen across campus over the course of the semester, and we're going to provide both testing and vaccination facilities on campus. And then in addition to that, for classes that are in excess of 100 students, we are giving faculty the option to hold their class at 50% occupancy. To give you some sense of context and scale there, at the undergraduate level, our institution typically in a fall semester will have around 5,000 sections of classes, of which around 225 of those have 100 or more students. And so those are the primary mitigation measures that we have established, in addition to plexiglass barriers still in place in the classrooms and so forth. Thank you.